right, guys, this is going to be building the Redneck Blind solo. I'm going to take my time and work through it. It's not that bad. It's not that difficult to do. So the game plan, let's spin around here. The game plan is to use the back blade on the tractor and the bucket to try to get this as level as I can. And then I've got the blind is on a sled. I haven't brought her up the trail yet, up to this spot. I want to get this cleaned out. I got some few trees to remove, some ground to smooth up before I bring it up here. That's working out really well. Having a nice tractor doesn't hurt, but I find it's much easier. It's the second one I've built. You're way better off to level the ground as much as you can, build it, and then level out the feet individually. But I got a little more work to do, and then I'll get start building the base. So I'm down in the barn, packing up the steel part of the blinds. The packaging, it comes in a couple of packs, and the cardboard got wet. I had everything loaded here, and it rained on it. So after it came out of the truck, so it looks messy, but the packaging was actually really, really well done. This is the base unit. I'm using a little utility trailer behind the tractor to pull it up. I've got the ladder and supports that came in the main packaging. And then these packages have the steel for the legs. All the boxes are clearly numbered and labeled. The hardware is all the same size, as stated before. So it's well packaged, well put together. I think this is going to go together very, very, very smooth. All right, so we've got trailer in tow. We're going to head up to the top of the world here and get this thing put up. All right, so this is the we call the lower field. I've got a local farmer that mows this, pulls the hay off of it for cattle, and our blind is sitting up in this corner. And it's going to be high enough where we'll be able to cover this field. You'll get does coming across the field. Not a lot of bucks. The bucks can stay in the ravines, which will be a much closer setup. All right, so I use a tracker and my little sled here to slide the blind over in place. This is the pad that I kind of dug out with the tractor to kind of get as flat as I could. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go grab the tractor, get this dirt cleaned out. We're going to take the blind, put it on its side right here. So we build the legs on its side, and the lower legs should drop right into these corners. And then we tip it up, it'll sit right in this flat area. Then we'll go through the anchoring process. It's a good location. I'm excited to get this thing done. The little skid we made, my son and I built a go-kart many years ago, and I kind of pilfered the back axle, took it apart and used the tires, and then just some 2x4s to make a little skid. And it works really well. I'm really happy with it's not perfect, but it gets the job done. All right, so I'm gonna go down and grab the tractor, get this dirt cleaned out, and then start getting this thing built. All right, so we've got things in place to start assembling the blind. We'll get the trailer unpacked, and you gotta get the base mounted first. Then we can get the legs on, then we can bring it up. So we're going to slide this up on top and get it set up so we can tip it up. They include a separate hardware pack that's got some of the specialty hardware, which these are the fasteners with everything with them to attach the blind to the base. So the packaging is really good. These are the only bolts that are really, I think, a different size. So they do make it very easy. Now it's a bit of a challenge to get things to line up. What I do is drop a bolt in, feel it, get it close to where it's the slot that it needs to go into, pull it out, and then I just kind of nudge it in. It takes a little finesse. This is my second one. Two people would be easier, but it certainly is doable. So inside the blind, I've got 4 holes, you'll see right here, and they line up with, they're like slots on the base. So you've got some play. What I do is drop in a bolt, and I'm going to disassemble one. The big washer obviously goes on top of the fiberglass. And then what I do is I just reach over with my hand, feel the orientation of the bolt to where it's supposed to go, then just kind of slide it in place. I think it's pretty close, because this looks lined up pretty well. I'm going to have to come left a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, put the camera down. All right, you can see the little slot here that bolt's got to go into. So I just kind of slide this around until I get it lined up, and then I'll push the bolt out and then reset it. But as you can see, I'm just kind of working it over slowly with my hand. The thing actually, it slides very easily on the stand. So this is not particularly difficult to do. All right, I need my hands though. All right, so I just kind of slid it around and got it so the bolt dropped in. I'm going to put a nut on this loosely, and then the blind will pivot on this bolt so I can line up the other holes quite easily. All right, once you get the bolts in the front, the back holes line up pretty easily. So I just drop the bolts in and good to go. I'll get the nuts on and we'll tighten it up. All right, so I'm in the blind. These are the bolts. And what I do, I've got a DeWalt impact wrench, and I bump them, the bolts, just hit them, and they get to a point where they'll slowly tighten, even so it doesn't spin on the other side. Those are in. Rock frickin' solid. All right, guys, we got that snugged up. I'm gonna take a little break here and get something to drink, and then what we're gonna do is tip this thing up, and then we can start assembling the legs. All right, so now this is the trickiest part. I've got to tip this thing up on its side, and it's got to go up on top of the little stoop here. I'm gonna close the door. So it's got to tip and lift up, and it's to not damage it, what I do, I'm going to hook it up to the back of my gator. I'm going to have a line go over the top to the other side. I'm going to drive forward and very slowly and just get it so it's balanced, and then I get out by hand and just lean it over. It's not, the blind itself weighs probably about 100 pounds or so, but when it's tipping, maybe 110, you're carrying about 60 pounds, 70 pounds in your arms. It's not too bad. I'm gonna get that set up and we'll get this thing tipped. All right, so this is the tricky part when you're operating solo. What I've got is, I've got straps going underneath the feet, on either side. It's one strap comes up to the center, then this grabs it from spreading the load out, and it's gonna just tip this up on the frame. I'm going to get it up just to a point where it's kind of balancing, and then I'm going to come up and just do it by hand. You'll see how it works out. I'm using the gator. I'll have it in low gear so it's going really slow, and get it up. Gotta go a little farther. Still got too much weight on it. All right, this looks good. Now, a little trick when you're trying to go really slow with a vehicle like the Gator is put it in low, give it some gas, have the brake on, and then use the brake to, the clutch will slip. It's like a hydrostatic clutch, and then use the brake to modulate it. This should come over now. And it's not that bad. I've got very little weight right now. It's pretty balanced. I'm just gonna let this kind of come down. All right, it's that easy. It's really not that hard. So now we're going to start building the legs, which are going to come out, and I will not get this done today. We're getting later in the day. I had a lot more work than I thought to getting the pad built, but it's been a fun day. It's been a really fun day. All right, guys, we're going to start getting the legs built. One of the tricks I learned is the little ledges, the way this base is made, the structure allows for great storage for the nuts and bolts. The legs are clearly marked. One's got 11 holes, one's got 8, and it even says on it top. So it is. They do a pretty good job. My impact driver. Impact driver is it's not required, but I can't imagine doing it without it. So recapping the day, I came in this morning with the tractor and flattened out an area, just not super accurate, just got it mostly flat. I can clean it up with a shovel when the blind's going in place. We got the blind, we brought it up, got the base on, got it tipped up so I can get the legs mounted. Once I get the top two legs on, then you've got the braces to go around it. And, you just work slow, take your time on, they'll take an hour or two. And then I'll get it tipped up into the, I may have to move it a little closer. I'm looking at where the legs are. And as that rocks down, I may have to move it a few inches. It's actually not that difficult to do. You can grab the legs and just kind of creep it along, and it does work. But, so we're getting close to dusk. All right, we're back day 2 of the redneck build. I got the tracker backed in, so I'm going to use this to stand on to put the other legs up. Get the pieces in place. All right, guys, so I've got the frame coming together. What I want to show you, I'm getting the braces in, just kind of taking my time. Once you've got some of the lateral supports in, you've got enough structure to it, you can simply rock it down and then finish out the top without having to climb up or use a ladder or anything. This thing becomes extremely rigid as you get all the pieces together. I'm going to go ahead and finish bolting this up and then get the feet on. And I'll go down and get the tractor. I think we're going to get this up today. All right, so I've got all the legs. Structure is built. It went together really well, pretty quickly too. Everything's tightened up. My measurements were a little off in terms of placement. So when this comes down, I'm really close. But it's got to come this way a little bit. And what I think you can do with this is I think I can just walk it. All right, guys, I think this thing is ready to pop up. I'm going to go down and get the tractor. And I've done this before with multiple people. It it lifts up with the bucket of the tractor quite easily. The fear is that when it comes up, it's going to keep rocking and fall the other way. It doesn't happen. Most of the weight's on that other side, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stake into the ground over here with a long rope that will limit how far it can go, so it can come up, but it can't rock the other way. And we'll bring it up. It actually goes up amazingly easy. All right, I've grabbed the tractor. One of the challenges I've got is I've got the ground, I've cut out so that the blind is flat. It's not giving me a lot of lift with the bucket. So I'm just gonna try this out, and if it's sliding too much, I'm gonna have to try something else. But maybe have to go back to getting a crew of people in. All right, guys, no matter how you slice it, that's pretty freaking cool. That works so well. It actually looks really level too. I'll put a level on it, cut the feet down if I have to, but the whole system worked perfectly. I gotta put the ladder in place now. There may be a challenge if it's cut so deep the way the ladder is. I'll have to play with that to see how that comes together. The ladder may actually be too long. Either I'll have to cut the ground out, or I'll just take and cut the ladder down. But all in all, yeah, that's really cool. All right, just to review this a little bit, we had the stake set up with the safety line to prevent the lift from going too far, from it tipping the other way. I wrapped the nylon straps through the mounts for the railing to the bucket of the tractor, and then pulled it up. So guys, I've got an anchor down the bottom, put the auger in the middle. I might put some concrete into it as well and get the ladder up, but this is essentially the nuts and bolts of building a Redneck Blind solo. It can be done, and it's been a good project. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this thing out and shoot one last bit of video of the finished product. It's starting to rain. I may have weather coming in, so we may have to wrap this up later in the week. All right, we're back up. What a difference a few days make, man. The leaves are changing quick. Things are coming down pretty quick here. I'll get the ladder up and a few little odds and ends, and this thing should be good to go. All right, we got the ladder assembled. It just took a couple of minutes. So the ladder hangs, there's some dirt up in the stand, got some mud in there. There's two little slots where hooks go in, and they use just simple clips. They go through, so the ladder is very easy to remove. Probably so people who are worried about other people using their blind can just remove the ladder. Where we are now, I'm really not worried about it. All right, guys, that goes up pretty good. I may dig this out a little bit just to get a little more pitch to the ladder. I'm not sure yet. I've got the upper railings to go up right now, and that really completes the build. All right, guys, the blind is up and complete. I've got to run the cable down to the center anchor, but a little muddy. So the final piece of assembly, there's an auger that goes into the ground. It goes pretty deep, and I'll tell you, it's a bear to get that in. Well, the cable runs up to that eyelet, and then down, there's like a turnbuckle, you tighten it up. I'll do that now. In hindsight, I would recommend run a cable, run a rope through that eyelet because it's not easy to reach. I'm gonna actually bring the tractor over and use the bucket, climb up in the bucket to get the cable up. But all in all, this setup is gonna work out really well. A little more thinning on the trees. And once all the leaves come down, visibility opens up tremendously. I've got my apple tree here, which they do like to come into, and we're gonna clean out those aspen trees to open up into that field a little bit. All right, guys, so this concludes building a Redneck Blind solo. And as I stated before, you're really gonna need some sort of a tractor or something that's got something you can get up high to pull it up. I'm not sure you could pull this up solo with like an ATV or a small vehicle. You definitely want something up high. All right, thanks for watching.